coffee dreams and custard creams. Nice warm tea, we can feel stress-free. Soft voices and a lot of laughs. It's the Mundane Podcast.
Hello there. My name is Chris, and I'm here today with my friend Dave.
Hello, everybody.
And this is our podcast, The Mundane with Chris and Dave, because Dave lives far away, and I want to talk to him about some mundane stuff. So, how you doing today, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Chris. Yeah. Feeling reasonably mundane. It's
Excellent.
Monday.
It's Monday, mundane
yeah.
D.
Yeah, how are you, Chris?
I'm very well, thank you, Dave. Feeling also mundane-y. Got a case of the mundanes. Mundanes? I don't know. I need to kind of find a structure of how we open these podcasts, because I think I've opened them in different ways. I will start with a hello there, and I feel that's good. But maybe us saying hello to each other and kind of doing that. Maybe that'll work, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's the way. So, Dave, every week, you know this, but just in case people at home don't, I've decided this will be like a few episodes in as well. So people are going to be like, I know what this podcast is now, but it doesn't matter.
But someone might not.
Exactly.
And we have to do it for them.
So every week we talk about a subject that some may say is mundane, but as we always discover, is often very much not. The secret lives are the things we don't know. Possibly. I don't know. Anyway, this week, Dave, we are going to be talking about a thing that you know very intimately, that every British person, not every, most British people will know quite intimately. Thing that we must have gone through probably tens of thousands. Can you guess what it's going to be?
Gone through tens of thousands.
We all have. You, in fact, asked for one earlier, or asked for something that would have required the use of one.
I know what it is now.
Go on then, Dave. What is it?
It's tea.
It's tea, and more specifically, Teabags.
Teabags.
Yes. Today
And the act of teabagging.
Not the act of teabagging. That's a different podcast. Okay, so I today, on the history of, more importantly, teabags in the mundane sense, because I would say teabagging is not mundane.
No,
you're not
it's
living
not.
a mundane.
No.
If someone teabags you, you're not living a mundane life. You're either playing video games, and if you're doing the act of teabagging, you're winning. So not particularly mundane. And if someone does it to you, you're going to the kind of parties where there is that kind of, let's be honest,
Camaraderie. Or weirdos.
Oh, camaraderie. Yeah, you say camaraderie, I say weirdos. The two sides of the masculine coin there. I'm like, what a weirdo, and Dave's like, what a chum. Anyway, let us go now. I've got 2 articles up today, and I found that there's an interesting kind of conflict between the two.
Okay. I can imagine. I mean, tea, I think, divides opinion. So let's hear it.
The history of the tea bag is split between, I've got 2 articles today. One is from tea.co.uk.
Really?
I would imagine a pretty reputable source to own that domain.
I'm glad it's not a .com as well.
I'm glad it's not a .com. Yeah, it's got to be .co.uk. Yeah,
even if it was an American website, they probably still put .co.uk.
They'd be talking about putting it in the freezer, in the microwave, covering it in sugar. So, in fact, actually, now that you say that, I've just realised the second article in the history of teabags is from time.com, which is an American website. So maybe that's where the conflict...
Magazine, aren't they? So
they're a big magazine. They're going to be well researched. So this is from the history of the tea bag, which has a bibliography at the bottom, which is quite nice, but doesn't have who wrote it. But this is from tea.co.uk, which on the main webpage is UK Tea and Infusions Association. So like the Council of Tea. Maybe the Council of Tea need to establish what a tea bag really is. Is it one testicle hit in the face, or is it 2? Maybe the act of teabagging needs to be more well defined. Maybe we should get in contact with the UK Tea and Infusions Association about the true act of teabagging.
I think so, yeah. I think they'd have to have a section on their website about it, wouldn't they, really?
Yeah, I'm a bit... Exactly. We need a meeting. Okay, here we go. So, tea infusers and the origins of the tea bag. The arrival in Britain in the 17th century altered the drinking habits of this nation forever. So already, pretty epic start.
Yeah.
The late 18th century saw black tea overtake green tea in popularity for the first time, which also accelerated the addition of milk. In the 19th century, widespread cultivation of tea in India began, leading to the imports of Indian tea into Britain overtaking the imports of Chinese tea. And in the 20th century, there was a further development that would radically change our tea drinking habits. The invention of the tea bag. So already pretty epic start.
It's got a rich tea history.
Rich. Oh, nice. I like that. Was that done on purpose?
Yeah, it's meant to be terrible.
It was good. I approve. I didn't realise that we started with green tea and then went to black tea.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, yeah.
It kind of makes sense when you consider the history between relations between China and between India.
Yeah.
But and also I quite like, obviously, it's going over the considerable amounts of murder and war and other dark things that
Glossing over that a little.
Glossing over that quite nice. Just like, oh yeah, they like their tea.
Mm.
They didn't enslave an entire nation anyway. They just liked the tea. They just liked the tea. They didn't put the Chinese population onto opium addiction. No. They just liked the tea. Also, just on a personal level as well, I've actually taken more to drinking green tea than I have to taking.
I noticed. Obviously, yeah. I think we still got some of your green tea bags down here.
Oh, down there. So you're still on the black tea, but last time I saw you brought some green tea bags and have just left it there.
I had that one not too long ago because we had no milk, so I was like, well, I'll have a green tea then. I will drink many kinds of tea.
What's your favourite kind of tea?
Tea. Just
black tea.
Classic black tea, probably. I mean, I do really like rooibos. I haven't really tried enough teas to have much of an opinion. I think that chai tastes like Christmas, so that's quite nice.
Chai does taste like Christmas.
Generally, I think, really, you just can't go wrong with a cup of classic English breakfast black tea or whatever, yeah.
Classic English tea you can't go wrong with. The problem that I find is that I'm now so used to green tea, and I'm pretty lazy. My green tea addiction has kind of gotten to a point I leave the tea bag in for green tea, which...
I was doing that with black tea as well.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, really? With black tea?
Yeah. I used to leave a bag in, mate, partially out of distrust for the person making it, that they would take it out before it, properly infused. Because some people make really anemic tea, and then they put loads of milk in it as well. And it's like, if I wanted some milk and hot water that has seen a tea bag at some point, I would have asked for that. I like a strong tea.
It's like we always like strong tea. It's like people that have weak handshakes. It's like if they make a weak cup of tea, you can't help but question their character somewhat. Yeah. It's like, do you even care about tea?
Because have you no patience? Because
no patience? Yeah,
it takes
true.
2 to 3 minutes minimum to brew a tea bag.
Exactly.
Minimum.
And you can stir it.
You can stir it and encourage it along. Speed the process a bit as well, but don't split that bag.
No, you don't split.
Otherwise,
that's it. That's self-control as well. So patience, self-control, and it's interesting you say that because that's the problem that I have now. Obviously, we're recording this early 2021, so seeing people socially is pretty much out the window. But on the time when we were occasionally allow people in, I found it really difficult to make people cups of tea because I always have green tea or fruity tea. I quite like mint tea. But then what happens is what I do is boil the kettle, tea bag in, done. That's my cup of tea and I walk off. But then when you have someone who wants a cup of tea with milk and with sugar, it feels like a science experiment. So, gotta line up all the things, gotta add and then you pour it and then you got it. Yeah. And like you said, I will never give a friend an anemic tea, even if I don't want to shake someone's hand. I will give them a good hearty handshake, even if I don't think they've washed their hands, and I will just wash my hands afterwards. And if I don't want to make a good cup of tea, I'll still make it, and I'll still make it a good tea because that is principle.
It is. In Britain, we make good tea.
We make good tea, exactly.
It's socially unacceptable to make bad tea.
Absolutely.
Get out of my house. Maybe not that. We're nice about it, really. But we would talk about them behind their back. We were like, oh, did you know that Thingy, he makes anemic tea?
Oh, wow. You should get him to leave your house.
Yeah. I think I should stop his pocket money or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. Having a good cup of tea is very important. And like I said, even if I don't want it, I will still make a good cup of tea.
I'm sure I've had a good cup of tea made by you, Chris, as well.
Oh, thank you. So I have definitely had from you. Like we both, our standards of tea. I think that's the thing though. It's like being a bad lover if you can't make a good cup of tea. You need to know the moves. You need to know the patience.
You do,
and self-control.
Not everybody wants their tea strong as well. That is the thing. There are some weird British people who don't like strong tea, and some people actually like it weak. So you do part of making a good cup of tea is saying, "Oh, do you
Is
like
you
it
ask.
strong?" It's always a leading question for me. So it's never, "Do you want it weak or strong?" It's always, "Do you want it strong? Do you want it nice and strong?"
You want it strong, right? You want it strong like me.
Assertive.
I'm assertive with my tea. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, because if you say weak, even if they might not like that language, it's not very nice language.
No, it's
like,
not. No one wants a weak tea.
Yeah, would you like watered down wee, or would you like a strong cup of tea? And I do find though the people that do like it weak will often be more open to it. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, no, actually, can I have weak, please? Just weak, just a tea bag in for a little bit." Just to have it kiss the,
Just give it,
yeah,
and that's fine.
a little bit, and that's fine. I don't know why you like water and milk.
No,
but fair enough.
Fair enough. But if I go to your house and you make tea and you don't ask, because it's okay not to ask, but at that point you're taking a gamble and you have to get it right. And if you make me a weak tea, then at that point I'm judging you. At that point onwards, I'm afraid.
I suppose what the average is, we should look into what the average. How does the average British person, I'm going to search this up now, have their tea?
Because I've actually seen on Facebook a picture of like different coloured cups of tea depending on strength, and people, do you want A, B, C, D, or E? And I did find that most people were, I think, going for the sort of medium to strong. I suppose you call it medium well or whatever. I don't like my tea. There is a point where tea is too strong and it's kind of almost dry in your mouth. And I don't like that. I don't like it that strong. It's a fine line. And that's why it's so hard to be British, because in America, you can go and make your coffee and it's all fine. Over here, there is your social reputation relies upon your tea making. And if you mess it up, then you're going to get judged. And that's hard.
Absolutely. So this is from thegrocer.co.uk, and this is from 2016. How do Brits take their tea? What do you think is the most common way someone has their tea?
Are you talking strength or like in terms of how many sugars and...
Just in terms of milk and sugar.
Milk, 1 sugar.
Milk, 1 sugar, correct.
I make quite a lot of tea for customers, so generally that seems to be the most popular one.
What do you think is the second most popular one?
Milk, no sugar. Milk, 2 sugars.
Milk, 2 sugars or more, yeah, for 16%.
Third most common has got to be milk, no sugar then, surely.
Third most common is... Yeah,
that's how I have it. How do you have it, Chris?
Yeah. I also have milk, no sugar.
The best way.
I'm lactose intolerant though, which was a recent revelation. So I have to. I can't have milk alternatives because they taste gross. I found oat milk sometimes tastes okay, but it doesn't taste like a cup of tea. So I will only be able to have normally 1 cup of tea a day if I ever want it. But also that means holding milk. And as we said, I'm not really going outside and I live alone. So I haven't had tea with milk for a while. But it is nice when you go somewhere and they do have milk and they offer it to you and you go, yeah, just a bit of milk, please. And also that was the other thing when it comes to the strength. I always find when I'm mentioning strength, we're never talking about the strength of the tea bag. The tea bag is always an assumption. It's always like 75%. But then with milk, I always find there's often more of an adjustment. So it could be something like, just a bit of milk, just a splash of milk. Just a bit.
Yeah, there's milk strength and tea strength. It's a good point. That adds another level of this science. It really,
this is a complicated science.
This is why it's hard.
This is why it's hard. And the thing is, right, is that this is what I said. Because I have mainly fruit tea and green tea, I don't ever have to worry about it. I'm just like, leave the tea bag in, and that's how I have it.
I think that's why it has to be, unless you specifically request, it has to be a minimum of 2 to 3 minutes with the tea bag. Because if somebody wanted a strong tea, but they were talking about, they're like just a splash of milk, but they like a strong tea or whatever, you're not got a hope in hell of just dipping the tea bag in for 30 seconds and then hardly any milk either.
Exactly. If someone says a splash of milk, I do assume they want the tea fairly strong. Yeah. But then, and this is what I've just realised. I've just had this revelation, an exclusive here.
Oh, okay, here we go. Chris and Dave. A first.
No, a big revelation. It's like when you cook for someone, it can be quite intimate. It's quite like you're getting to know them. Normally, when you cook someone something, though, it's normally just you're having pasta or you're having chili.
Yeah, and it's not a stressful experience for me ever. Not as stressful as tea.
And then what happens? But even with that, let's go like you're having burger and chips.
They get what they're given.
You get what they're given, but burger and chips is the one that maybe, what sauce? But you give them the sauce. You don't just put the sauce on because they might like the sauce over or they might like the sauce for dipping. So what you do is you give them it and then you give them the sauce as an extra thing. With tea, that's one thing where you have to and you do learn how people like their tea. It's a very intimate scenario. I remember that you like tea without sugar.
Yeah. And you get it in offices and departments in different workplaces. They'll have the name of a person and how they have their tea, and it will, sometimes it will go into as much detail as strong. Some people might even be like, leave the bag in 4 or 5 minutes, or leave the bag in, and then milk and sugar. And I've done them before for the customers who come into my studio. I actually made an Excel spreadsheet.
How many names do you have on that spreadsheet?
I never actually finished it because it got to the point. By the time I had started adding more and more names to the spreadsheet, I'd been serving them all tea and coffee enough. Well, I knew if they wanted tea, how they wanted their tea, and I knew if they wanted coffee, how they wanted coffee. I could even got to the point that I could see in their eyes, like, you want coffee today? Which one do you want? Do you want a black with milk or? Oh, wait, no, but I knew how they wanted their coffee. So, yeah, it becomes telepathic.
Coffee, you just have coffee.
Yeah, you do.
You don't have, just a bit of coffee, just a splash of coffee. No. Maybe they want a latte, but then you get down the Starbucks complicated route. No. If you're just making them the default drink, it is coffee, and then what do you add on it? It's like cereal.
Yeah.
You know what, Dave? I need to make a correction midway through the show. This is the problem, because on the grocer.co.uk, I realised it's a pie chart. And I got the colours mixed up. So, in fact, the most common way to have tea isn't with 1 sugar.
Oh.
It is milk with no sugar is the most common way.
Interesting. So, our way is the most common way.
Our way is the most common way. We are common. Mm-hmm. We are the common people.
It's good. It's reassuring, though, that is, to be honest.
34%. I'm going to own that. I'm not going to cut it. I'm so sorry if people were listening before and they were like, no, that's wrong. 34% have milk, no sugar. And then milk, 2 sugars and more is the most common after that.
Not milk, 1 sugar.
Milk, 1 sugar is then 3rd. And then I don't drink tea is 4th.
Maybe it's because most of the people who have sugar in tea, they're not messing about. And they're like, right, if I'm having sugar, I'm having 2 or whatever. And then the ones who then are like, I need to cut down on my sugar. They'll go down to 1 sugar. And it's just a transitional thing maybe for them. And then they go to no sugar. So maybe that's why there's more of the 2+ sugars and then fewer of the 1 sugar. Maybe. That's a theory.
This is also the textbook British thing, isn't it? We started on the history of the tea bag, and we've already gone down the history. We've already gone down on our tea preferences.
Of course. So if any of you are listening right now, I like to think you could make us both a good cup of tea, just how we like it. We'll test one of you one day. We'll turn up at your door. We don't know who you are, but we'll find you, and we'll turn up at your door.
We'll find you.
And you will make us tea.
I just want to give you my one top tip for when you make tea for loads of people, and let's say they like stuff in different way. This is my Chris Wells tip that has done me since I was little, because I used to make my parents tea in the morning when I was like 6. Always put things in alphabetical order. So let's say you got 5 people, and it's like, Annie, Clarabelle.
The 2 carriages from Thomas the Tank Engine.
The 2 carriages. I was hoping you'd notice that. Annie, Clarabelle, Thomas, and Fat Controller. And then let's say they all have their tea in slightly different ways. And you know this at this point. Some like 2, some just like black, some just like a splash of milk. You lay out the mugs alphabetically. So it'll be Annie, Clarabelle, Fat Controller, Thomas. Yeah. And you lay them out, then you make them the way they need to. And then, it means you can just go out and who gets what. No matter what. So even if you do that thing, because I always go, I've forgotten. You haven't.
So I've got little methods as well. When I'm working at the studio and I'm making up to 6 or 7 musicians at the most cups of tea and coffee of all different requests. So I use the mugs, right? So This is psychological, probably, actually, right? So one of the mugs we've got is an Incredible Hulk mug. So if anyone likes a strong tea or a strong coffee, that's going in the Incredible Hulk mug, right? That's a good starting point. Or if nobody's too fussed about the strength of their tea or coffee, and the Hulk factor doesn't work for that, the drummer gets the Hulk mug. Hulk smash, yeah? So yeah, right? And then we've got some mugs that are like grey. So the grey mugs, so they're very standard. So they're like, okay, they're probably going to be a milk 1 sugar or just milk no sugar. And then there's a white mug. I think we've only got 1 just plain white mug. So if anyone likes their tea milky, that goes in the white mug. No, that's pretty much the system with me. Besides that, I can just kind of remember who wanted what, but I know what's in what mug because of the mug. So I can, even if I don't remember who wanted their strong coffee, I'll be like, Hulk mug. Who wanted the strong? That's in the Hulk mug. Or if it's not anyone wanting the strong thing, and then I know the Hulk mug is for the drummer. Yeah.
That's exciting. Next time I see you, I'll be interested in what mug you choose from it. I suppose you choose a grey one because I haven't milk no
There's
sugar.
one other mug that we have as well, which is it's got like teddy bears on and hearts, and it says someone very special, and that goes usually to the singer because I'll be like, oh, you're the diva, so like, yeah, you get the. Oh, and there's another mug as well. It's like got like more like childy fairy tale-y teddy bears, and unfortunately, it's a bit smaller, so you get a smaller portion. So I feel harsh using it, but occasionally I do give it to like the metalist band that we have here, like this, because they're so raw, and it's just really funny to give them this coffee in a little teddy bear mug. But I feel I don't do it too often because you don't get as much coffee with it. I usually say if you want a bit more, I just had to do it. I'm sorry.
How do they normally react? How do the metal people?
You know what? I'm going to name drop them because they would not mind at all. Derelict Dream, and they got a great sense of humour. They're great guys, and they're a great band. Check them out on Spotify. So there you go. First ever name drop, I think. There.
That's it. That's good. That's a good name drop. And in fact, the last thing I want to ask you regarding tea is: are you a person who adds cold water to their tea or coffee to cool it down?
Okay. No, not really. I have done, but it was an ice cube. Because I was at work where I had access to ice cubes and I really just wanted to have this coffee soon. So I banged an ice cube in it. And
no, that's interesting because, I have strong opinions. I don't have that strong opinion, actually. But I do find that it can alter the taste.
It can.
If you have boiled water and then a bit of tap water.
Yeah.
I find...
especially if you're leaving the tea bag in, then absolutely it will because it's going to stop the brewing process from happening. But I think also it's staying hot for longer probably does something to the flavour. I don't know what.
So
just like in the same way that when you take your food out the oven, you've taken it out the oven, but it's still cooking in itself. Like so, you take your joint of beef out before it's actually done, and you let the rest of it cook by itself. The turkey at Christmas, same thing. And maybe there's something similar with tea. You got to let it get down to its temperature at its own pace, and isn't that British in a way as well? Like let's not hurry this thing. This is tea we're talking about. Like the tea will be ready when it's ready.
It's what we said. Yeah. It's about patience. And like I said, mate, it's the same as not being able to know how to cook. If you can't make a good cup of tea, arguably, because I've been making cups of tea since, like I said, I was about 5 or 6. I used to because I always used to be.
You learn from a young
really
age,
early,
don't you?
And I used to, and I used to like bringing it up to my family. I don't know how I never burned myself, but there you go. I used to love bringing it up, going, "Mummy, I got you a tea," and they'd be like, "Chris, it's 5 a.m. Go to bed." I'm like, "No," and I learned, how to make the tea. You get the right color. You can't just like tea bag, milk, water, done. It's like, no. There is a process. Yeah. And that's why people get so passionate about it as well, because it's so different. A mild cup of tea versus a heavy cup of tea. Cup of tea where the milk goes in first, where the milk goes in that. It's very different. And people have their preferences. And I think that's very fair.
Yeah. I would never
to have.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'd never begrudge anyone their tea or coffee preference. It's a very opinion-divided thing, as I also said earlier. It's just... once you're on the receiving end and they're making it for you, then it's important to establish how you like it. And if they're not going to establish, then they've got to get it right. Otherwise, I'm disappointed. I don't know. I've said that so many times because it's obviously a matter that's close to my heart. I've had a few tepid, anemic cups of tea in my time.
I know. And then you can't drink it and then you feel rude.
Or you do drink it out of politeness and it's just not a nice experience. Really, is it?
Okay, so Dave, we've gone through everything about tea. So let's go back. We've only covered one paragraph of the entire 2 articles I wanted us to look at today. So
let's delve into these a bit then.
The purpose of the tea bag is rooted in the belief that for tea to taste its best, the leaves ought to be removed from the hot water at the end of a specific brewing period, which is something that we have both just pretty much admitted to not believing in. Then there is an added benefit of convenience. A removable device means that tea can be made easily in a mug as in a pot without the need for a tea strainer, and that the teapots can be kept clean more easily. But the earliest examples of removable infusing devices for holding tea were not bags. Popular infusers included tea eggs and tea balls.
I've got a tea infuser as well, to be fair.
I've got a tea infuser as well. I've got one that is like a yellow submarine.
I've got one of those too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So British that, isn't it?
Oh my goodness.
The Beatles.
Yeah, including tea eggs and tea balls. Not the tea balls that go against your face while you're asleep, though. Perforated metal containers which were filled with loose leaves and immersed in boiling water and then removed using an attached chain. Okay, so the next part. Thomas Sullivan and an accidental American invention. Needless to say, it was in America with its love of labour-saving devices that Oh, that's a bit of a backhanded comment, isn't it?
Labour-saving devices.
Needless to say, it was in America with its love of labour-saving devices. I think
Those
everyone...
work-shy Americans.
Those were, yeah, obviously, yeah. It's not like we had the Industrial Revolution or anything. Anyway, tea.co.uk. In around 1908, Thomas Sullivan, a New York tea merchant. What a job title. I'd love to have that as a job title.
New York tea merchant.
Yeah, started to send samples of his tea to customers in small, silken bags. Some assumed that these were supposed to be used in the same way as the metal infusers, by putting the entire bag into the pot rather than emptying its contents. It was thus by accident that the tea bag was born. So he was just like, here's my little container of tea, like a little baggie of tea, but it just happened to be in a little silken bag. And people started...
The accidental tea
Yeah.
bag.
Responding to the comments from his customers that the mesh on the silk was too fine, Sullivan developed sachets made of gauze, the first purpose-made tea bags. During the 1920s, these were developed for commercial production, and the bag grew in popularity in the USA. Ironically, weirdly, when you think about the tea revolution.
But I suppose the English or the British were like, no, we don't use a tea bag for our tea, we put it in a pot.
Made first of all from gauze and then later from paper, they came in two sizes, a larger bag for the pot and a smaller one for the cup. The features that we still recognise today were already in place. A string that hung over the side so that the bag could be removed easily, with a decorated tag on the end. The next sentence, Dave, is wonderful.
Okay. Fire it at me.
While the American population took to tea bags with enthusiasm, the British were naturally wary of such a radical change in their tea-making methods.
We said it. We're so... I mean, it's just so typical, I suppose, isn't it, really?
Oh my God, they even use your word. What is your word of a bad cup of tea aside from anemic? What temperature don't you like a cup of tea being? Exactly. This was not helped by the horror stories told by Britons who had visited the USA, who reported to being served cups of tepid water with a tea bag on the side, waiting to be dunked into it.
What?
An experience which is still not as uncommon in the US as it should be! Exclamation mark. And as we've seen by TikToks and other kind of viral memes, is that, yeah, there are a lot of Americans who don't seem to know how to make tea at all.
Yeah, it's true.
And I do think it's sad because I feel like if you have a good cup of tea, you'll know. You know when there's a good... And you're like, I love this. And I always find my theory is that I think everyone in life has one good cup of tea and then all they're doing is chasing that cup of tea. And sometimes they get it, but then sometimes they're just like, oh, no, that was almost there, but not quite the feeling of that first cup of tea. The material shortages of World War II also stalled the mass adoption of tea bags in Britain, and it was not until the 1950s that they really took off. The 1950s were a time where all manner of household gadgets were being promoted to eliminating tedious household chores. So now apparently the British are work shy. Thanks, article.
Everyone's work shy.
So hold on, yeah. So apparently the Americans are
labour saving.
Want to reduce labour saving devices. When the British do it, it's eliminating tedious household chores. That to me is also saving labour. So
yeah.
T.co.uk, I'm a bit disappointed in you. Anyway, in keeping with this, tea bags gained popularity on the grounds that they removed the need to empty out the used tea leaves from the teapot. That, to me, once again, is saving labour.
Taking the leaves out of the teapot isn't a particularly arduous task. You can just fill that teapot up with any kind of water and just tip it into a strainer again and dunk your strainer into your compost. Make sure you compost those tea leaves.
Compost those tea leaves.
I'm gonna say it now that I think that teapot tea is better than tea bag tea.
Yeah, I agree.
I have heard as well that maybe not all brands, but a lot of brands of tea bags are essentially they're just using like the kind of the finer stuff that's got to the bottom of the pile to put in the tea bags, and then all their fine good leaves are going in there.
That's a conspiracy theory we could go down.
I would love to know if that's true or not. I mean, I for one have found that the best cup of tea that I'm always chasing or whatever comes from a teapot.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Here's another really good sentence. I think you'll appreciate this. The convenience factor was more important to the British tea drinker than the desire to control the length of infusion time, hence the appearance of tea bags that did not have strings attached.
No strings attached.
No strings attached. I thought it was a pun, but I've realised no, it's apparently American always. So it's a bit like where they invented the lighter before they invented the match. They invented tea bags with string on because apparently, it was the convenience of having the tea bag as opposed to anything else.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're making tea, chances are there's going to be a teaspoon. I mean, it's called a teaspoon as well.
Exactly.
I bet that's why it's called a teaspoon as well. We could probably look into that. And if you've got a teaspoon in the process, if there's milk or sugar in the tea, you're going to stir it. So you may as well use the teaspoon to remove the tea bag. And then you don't need the string. And let's face it, whenever I've used ones with string, which is usually the sort of posher tea bags that you get nowadays, like your Twinings.
Definitely. Which is weird when you consider that they were the first ones.
Yeah, it should be the other way around, if anything. The posher ones don't have the string, but that's not the case. But seldom does the string help. You know,
Yes.
you wrap it around the handle, you hang it over the edge. I actually find, if anything, hanging it over the edge is your best bet. And even then,
me too.
9 times out of 10, you come back.
It just gets
and it's all in
sucked
there. It's all in the water there. Yeah, because you can't really, because you want your tea bag to get some movement to infuse and stir around as well. And if you're trying to do that with the string on it,
Exactly. Also, I find if you add the milk, you need to stir the tea to get the milk infused. Because nothing's worse when you have the tea and it kind of the milk sits on top.
Yeah.
And it's not mixed in properly. I never realised there was so much. This is a textbook mundane situation where I didn't even realise how much I cared about tea and tea bags until we came across this subject. So let's finish up this article. It was Tetley in 1953 that drove the introduction of tea bags in Britain, but other companies soon caught up. In the early 1960s, tea bags made less than 3% of the British market, but this has been growing ever since. What do you think is the percentage of people of the market now that tea bags hold?
is this the tea market?
3% of tea was in tea bags in the 60s. Now it is up to something obviously much higher.
Yeah. Okay.
But what percentage do you think it is? So all it is tea bags versus loose leaf.
60%.
You think 60% of the tea market is tea bags?
Right. I think, but I secretly hope not, because I like to think more people are still using the pot.
I've got some bad news for you, Dave. In 2007, tea bags made up 96% of the British market.
We are 4%.
There can hardly be a home or workplace in Britain that does not have a stash of the humble but vital tea bag.
I mean, I've got tea bags.
We've all got tea
The
bags.
studio here has got tea bags.
Yeah.
I actually did have a teapot here at the studio, though, and it got broken by sub bass. It got shook off the shelf and it smashed on the floor.
Really?
Yeah. So I did have a teapot here. That was my teapot as well. I haven't had a teapot since.
Yeah.
It's a shame, really. I will get a teapot, though. When I get a place of my own, I'm going to have a teapot.
Well, you can put tea bags in the teapot.
You can, yeah, but it's not the same. It's loose leaf tea. It's got to be loose leaf tea in the teapot. Yeah. My parents always have it out of the pot.
So that was tea.co.uk. Let's go across to America and see what they have to say.
All right, what they Americans.
So I'm not going to read the whole article, but here was the bit that interested me. There's some debate about who invented the very first tea bag. One of the very first popular legends was that American tea importer. American tea importer doesn't sound as good as New York tea merchant, does it?
It doesn't, no.
No. So this is Thomas Sullivan, the same Thomas Sullivan, shipped out samples of his product in silk pouches in 1908, not intending his customers to put them directly in hot water that way, but some tried it and asked for more of the same. So obviously, in the original article as well, it talked about people complaining that the silk was too thick. So already, a bit of a thing. 7 years earlier, though, Roberta C. Lawson and Mary Malarian of Milwaukee filed for a patent for a tea leaf holder, which also resembles what we use today. By this means, they wrote, only so much of tea leaves is used as is required for the single cup of tea, making less waste. So, and their design was like, not using as many tea bags, and their design used a stitched mesh fabric that Sullivan too would switch to from silk to gauze after that he saw the silk was too fine for optimal infusion. No matter who got it first, the invention solved two problems at once: how to make a single serving tea brewing more convenient and how to reduce cleanup. Throwing out a tea bag is much easier than cleaning loose leaves out the pot. Everyone is really against cleaning out loose leaves out the pot, and it's really not hard.
No, yeah. I mean, people out there who really don't like doing that, just give it a go for a day. Even just once, just one time, give it a go. Get a teapot, put some loose leaf tea in it. And if you haven't got any loose leaf tea, get your bags, rip them open and chuck it in there. And then make some tea, enjoy your tea, if you've bought loose leaf tea and have loose leaf tea, you will enjoy it more. And then, just fill your pot with water, rinse it out, and then pour it into a strainer and put the tea leaves in a compost. And you might have to do it a couple of times just to get the last bits out. That's it.
I suppose it is a little bit more difficult, but it's not that much more difficult.
Actually, my dad, he always warms the teapot up before he puts the tea in the hot water into it as well. So the kettle, when the kettle's boiling, he gets the pot and he holds the open top of the pot up to where the steam is coming out of the kettle. So the steam heats up the teapot to get it to an optimal temperature to start that brewing process, I guess.
That's genius. So, funnily enough, just as another side thing, is that travel cups.
Yeah.
Normally, a way to make your hot drink last longer is to heat treat it first, where you pour a bit of boiling water in it first, and almost like swill it round, and then hold it so it makes the plastic or the metal inside the cup warm. Then you add your hot drink. You rinse it out and then add your hot drink. But I never thought about using the steam out the kettle. That's like energy efficient. I like it.
Just be careful because steam is really hot. Don't scold yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I probably would, knowing me. That's why.
I mean, I've done it with mugs as well. I've if I'm making myself a tea or coffee here, a tea, and I boil the kettle, I'll hold the mug because it's usually cold in the building here, so the mug's usually cold, and I'm thinking, well, my tea's going to be tepid within minutes, and
nothing's worse than tepid tea.
No, true that.
Okay, so the last thing, Dave, I have on this article, on the final couple of paragraphs, some have tried to revolutionise tea steeping. Keurig, for instance, has manufactured tea pods for its K-cup machine, taking the wait time out of steeping.
What's steeping?
I suppose brewing.
Right, okay.
That's what they mean, steeping. So apparently, like how you get the coffee pods.
Yeah.
Apparently they've got tea pods.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
You've already got the tea bags. We've already broken this process down. We've taken it away from the pot. We've taken those loose leaves away. And we've taken the strainer away. And now you actually want to take away the tea bag. And you want a pot that probably isn't recyclable either.
Exactly.
You can compost your tea bags.
So funnily enough, let's continue this. Others have tried to de-evolutionize tea steeping. I still don't know what steeping means. I'm going to do an investigation in a minute. I'm guessing it means brewing. It's just American for brewing. From context, I'm learning. There are loose leaf purists out there just as pour over coffee enthusiasts. So there you go, Dave. We're hipsters because we like loose leaf tea.
I guess we are.
But the tea bag is so brilliant, it really does not need improvement. From Bigelow to Twinings, the little mesh bag stapled to a string works every time. As John Harney of Harney & Sons once said, all the tea bag needs to be lifted to perfection is furiously boiling water and 5 minutes steeping. No more, no less. So he likes a strong cup of tea.
He does, yeah. And he acknowledges that it can be too strong as well. Because going beyond 5 minutes, you're starting to get into that territory, to be fair, I think.
Exactly. A simple tea bag has required no modification since its invention a century ago. And a century from now, it's a safe bet we'll be brewing our cuppa the exact same way.
Yeah, we probably will.
Yeah, steeping is soaking in.
Right, yeah.
Soaking in food or water or other liquids as to extract its flavour to soften it. But I suppose steeping is also true for everything. Yeah, steeping you can do to make gravy. It's like souring. What the hell?
So yeah, making stock, I guess.
It's making stock, that's steeping. But to me, you don't brew stock. To brew something is very exclusive to tea and coffee. You don't brew stock.
No. You steep it, I suppose.
You steep it. So, Dave, the world now knows how we like our tea, how tea is important, and maybe a bit of history on the tea bag. And just remember that tea leaves, not that hard to clean up. And especially if you clean it up straight away. I hope if you get anything from this, it is how we make our tea.
Yeah.
And how much tea seems to be important. This was supposed to be a shorter recording session today.
This one has been quite a long one.
It's been quite a long one.
It's a passionate subject for us both.
Absolutely.
And hopefully for you guys too.
And hopefully for you guys too. And just remember that I love you.
I love you guys too.
And I love you, Dave.
I love you, Chris.
And I'll see you next week, Dave.
Yeah, see you next week. Have a good week.
You too, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Sister Monday podcast.